I'm going to show you how to sculpt a ceramic coral reef.
To get started, I've got a canvas cloth to work on top of, and I'm grabbing a rolling pin, a needle tool, and a cup of water. I'm getting a chunk of clay, I'm pressing it into a ball, and then I'm rolling it around on my canvas to make it into more of a ball. Now that I'm happy with the roundness of my ball, I'm sticking my thumb inside. Now to make a pinch pot, I begin to pinch and rotate the ball. Notice that I'm not curving my fingers when I pinch. Don't do that. Instead, I'm keeping my fingers flat and straight while I pinch the clay and slowly rotate the ball. Gradually, I'm going to widen and open up my pinch pot so that it turns into a mound with sloping edges. Watch how I use my palm and fingers to press into the mound as I continue to rotate it until I'm happy with the shape. I want it to be lumpy and imperfect because this is meant to be a mound on the sea floor. If there are any rough areas on your clay, you can dip your finger in the water and then use your wet finger to smooth out the clay. Be sure not to add too much water. Now I'm going to grab some more clay. I'm pressing down with my palm to flatten it. I'm going to roll out a slab with the rolling pin. When you use a rolling pin, roll a couple of times in one direction and then switch and roll in the other direction. After a few seconds, switch again and roll in the other direction. Be sure to do this so that your clay rolls out evenly. You don't want your clay to be any thinner than this, so if it's thinner than this, squish it back into a ball and start again. I'm going to press very lightly to draw my starfish onto the clay. Do not push the needle tool all the way through your clay. If you press lightly like this and then you make a mistake, all you have to do is dip your finger in water, rub out your mistake, and then redraw it with your needle tool. Now that I'm happy with how my starfish looks, I'm going to cut it out. This means that I push my needle tool all the way through the clay. I cut all the way to the edge of the clay and then I remove the piece that I have just cut out. I do this working all around my starfish until it is totally cut out. Now I'm dipping my finger in water and smoothing out the edges. I'm going to position my starfish where I want it to be and then gently trace around the edges. The marks I've made show me where I need to score on the clay. I'm now showing you the score and slip method. I'm scoring the surface where I'm going to add the starfish by adding a bunch of cross hatches. Then I'm doing the same thing to my starfish. Think of this as making a bunch of tiny hashtags on your clay. Now that I'm done scoring, I'm going to add a bit of water to both surfaces. Then I firmly press the starfish onto its place. If you do not use this score and slip method, the pieces you attach will fall off. So be sure to do this whenever you join two pieces of clay together. I'm grabbing a dowel and adding some texture to my starfish by poking tiny dots all over the surface. I'm rolling some tiny balls that are going to turn into sea urchins. After making them into balls, watch how I carefully press the ball between my fingers to make it just a little bit flat. I take a dowel and I twist it into the center to make a hole. Again, I flatten the sea urchin just a little bit, then twist the dowel into the center to make a hole. I score the place where I'm going to attach the sea urchin. Then I score the bottom side of the sea urchin. Next, I add water to both surfaces. Then I firmly press the sea urchin onto the surface. I repeat this process with the other sea urchins. I'm also attaching a couple sea urchins on the other side. I'm making a couple more balls that are going to turn into brain coral. I'm using my dowel and a needle tool to stab a bunch of holes into the ball. Isn't it cool how this looks like brain coral? And now attaching it with the score and slip method. Be sure to add water and press it on firmly so it does not fall off. Here, I'm making a smaller piece of brain coral and attaching it. I'm rolling out a super thin slab of clay that's about as thick as a cereal box. From this piece, I'm cutting out a square. I'm carefully folding the square into a cylinder shape. If it starts to crack, you might need to add a tiny drop of water. I'm going to blend the base of these cylinders together using a bit more water. And now make a few more cylinders and join them all together with a bit of water. I'm using the needle tool to slice off the bottom so that it is flat. I score the base, and now that the bottom is flat, I can score it too. I'm adding water to both surfaces and firmly pressing it into the base. I'm rolling out a snake. This clay is a bit dry, so I have to add some extra water. I'm chopping off a few cylinders and pressing them together. Then I'm twisting the dowel into the center to make a hole. This is another method for making the type of coral that I just showed you, so you can pick whichever option works best for you. Remember that whenever you attach something, you need to score both surfaces and then add water to both surfaces. Then firmly press it onto the base so that it sticks. I'm going to do something totally different now and roll out a snake that tapers and gets super skinny on one end. I'm adding some water to make it soft and bendable. Then I'm curling the tip like a candy cane and pushing it in. Then carefully rolling it into a coil. This will be a sea snail. Once it's the size I want it to be, I can cut off the extra part. I'm using my dowel to poke a hole inside the end and attaching. Now for some seagrass. I'm rolling super thin snakes. If your clay starts to crack, be sure to add water. I'm adding a bit of water and pressing the blades of seagrass together. See how I use the needle tool to slice off the bottom? And now I can attach it to the base. I'm rolling a tiny ball and then shaping it with my fingers to make the shape of a mussel shell. I'm clustering a group of mussel shells together. I'm pinching off some bits of clay and making these flat rock shapes for a little extra variety. These tiny bits of clay are super thin and they're already pretty moist, so I'm pressing them directly onto the base without using score and slip. Now I'm just adding one more sea snail. Ta-da! Make sure your name gets carved on the bottom of your reef. When I clean up, I'm going to throw away these tinier clay crumbs because they're already super dry. I'm going to sprinkle this leftover clay with water and then roll it back into a ball. I put it back inside the clay bag so that someone else can use it later. Be sure to rinse out your cup and put it back. Put your tools back where they belong. Carefully fold up your canvas, walk it to a garbage can, and shake it out into the garbage. Use your hand to wipe the clay crumbs into your hand like this, and then throw them into the garbage. Then you can grab a rag and sponge off your table. Be sure to check out this tutorial that shows you how to make a ceramic fish bowl. You are going to love it.